Fight for your home. Fight for your
escape.
This here? This is the edge, bruh. The final frontier of manifest destiny. Last edge of the city. Man, 2 steps further, you'll be drinking that filthy salt water. But we built these ships, dredged these canals. Into San Francisco, they never knew existed. And now they come to build something new? Whole blocks, half in the past, half in the future. But should you venture into their San Francisco, the one they pillaged for gold, remember your truth in the city of facades.
Hi. Good morning. Last Black Man in San Francisco is an extraordinary new film starring our next guest, Jimmie Fails. It debuted in Sundance this year. It won the prizes for Best Directing and a special jury prize. It has been on many top 10 lists, including the New York Times' most recent top 10 list. And as I was going online looking at some odd sites that were nominating or predicting the Best Picture nominations for the Oscars next year, there was one site that did not list Last Black Man in San Francisco among their top 7 films, and the entire comment section was just people recommending Last Black Man in San Francisco to be nominated, just to give you a sense of this film's appeal and impact already. So, Jimmie, tell us what this film is about.
Wow. Well, as weird as it sounds, I usually say it's a love story between a man and a house, even though that does sound weird. But that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's, it's about a lot of things, though. It's about, identity, facing the changes of your city. That's why we chose the title, Last Black Man. San Francisco is less than 4% black, so it can start to feel weird if that's not how you grew up. You know what I mean? So it's more about the changes of the city and also, family and home. It was a family home, ownership, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and you live in San Francisco. This film is in part based on your life. Tell me a little bit about your experience and your life and how that inspired the plot of this film.
Well, I think in San Francisco, it's kind of a city of facades now because it's supposed to be to everyone like this liberal epicenter of the country, but it's like the biggest wealth gap. It's like ground zero for gentrification. But like growing up, it was like a big melting pot, and you grow up and knowing about all these different cultures and different people, so it's it's weird to see that sort of change happen in a city that's so built on like its art, and artists used to come there when they felt like they couldn't be accepted in their own communities wherever it was. So it's more of a gold rush now than coming there for like an artist sort of safe haven, because it used to be like the Grateful Dead was there, Janis Joplin, all these cool, and it's kind of been built on that sort of artist history. So it's weird to see it change like that.
It's an extraordinary film because, the story that you just told is a definitionally sad story, a story of gentrification, of people losing their homes, but the movie has an extraordinary humor to it. There's like a whimsical humor that's sort of laced throughout it. And I think that comes out in the next clip that we're going to show you, clip 2.
Jesus, man.
Oh,
Honey.
just get the heck out of here, man.
He's not hurting anything, Mayor.
Oh, he's painting the house now?
Well, yeah.
Stop fixing my house.
I'm almost done. Just hold on.
Why don't you just paint the neighbors' houses? Theirs are worse than ours.
Just hold on 1 second. I mean, we appreciate it in some way, but yeah, it's weird, man. I'm almost done.
Look, we will call the cops, man, and I mean it this time.
No, we're not gonna call the cops. We're not calling the cops. Just stop coming back.
I'm almost done. Hold on, please. Hold on.
Oh, just get off my fucking birdie bath! Get out of here,
Just,
man.
those are $3.
Fine. I'll finish it next time.
God.
Next time, oh, just get the heck off my
Just
birdie
water the
bath.
plants in the back, or I will.
Oh.
Jimmy, why are you painting their house?
Because that's my house. No, well, that's, my character in the movie is, supposed to be sort of naive in that way. It's a house that my grandfather owned, and, I believe he built it. In my mind, that's what's drawing me to the city. So it's like, the house represents a lot for me in that sense, So it represents a place where my family was. My family has been split since then. I'm not in contact with a lot of them, but I used to live with a lot of them in that house. So, it was just a place that meant a lot to me, still does, but.
Yeah. Well, so this is a film that you and your partner have been working on for a long time, for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And this is your first time acting in a film like this. This is the director's first time writing a film and directing in a film that's been released through A24 and released to the public. Tell me a little bit about the experience of working on a film like this. How did you get it in front of people who finally turned it into the sort of film that is brought to Sundance?
I mean, I feel like we got really lucky. We didn't know what we were doing, honestly, at all. Like, we thought that we could, make the movie with no script at one point, and that we could shoot it on Technicolor, which is not, So, yeah, exactly. So that's how naive we were. But, we just did, we've been making movies together our whole lives, like not movies that necessarily anybody saw, because we were like, youth filmmakers. But we just tried to, we put together like a concept trailer to kind of show people what we wanted to make. So it's just like a small kind of montage of me narrating the family story that inspired the film mainly. And Joe did some music to it and kind of cut it all up. And we put that online. And this lady, Elizabeth something, she's a really cool lady. She put it on her blog, and I forget her last name. But she put it on her blog, and people started to reach out to us and say like, oh, I like this short, and I want to get this movie made, like people in the Bay Area. And we were like the only filmmakers, as far as we were concerned, in the city and in the Bay Area. We didn't really know any other filmmakers. So we had met them through putting that video out. And we were, iffy about even putting it out, but luckily it worked out, and we met like Kalia Neal, the lead producer, and Rob Rickard, one of the main people that helped us write it and develop it, and we met all these cool people. So it really was just, a movie like that, it takes a lot of collaboration, and we just got lucky to meet the right people.
That's great. And what's the reception been like? I mean, it must just feel so heady to have millions of people reacting to a film that's not only a passion project for you, but also a reflection of your own life. I mean, what has that felt like?
Well, definitely weird at first, but it's been. I mean, it's like a beautiful thing to see people, responding to it and relating to a lot of stuff in the movie. But it's also kind of, unfortunately, universal. We like to say, just because I feel like the reason why it sits with so many people is because it's happening literally everywhere. You know what I mean? We've went a lot of places with this movie, Switzerland, London, a lot of places, and they're all being gentrified as well. So it's like, it makes sense.
Right. And it's a great setup for the third and final clip that we're going to show you today.
Excuse me? You don't get to hate San Francisco.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, dude, I mean, sorry, but I'll hate what I want.
Do you love it?
Yeah, I'm here. But do I have to love it?
You don't get to hate it unless you love it. You don't get
Those two women on the bus have been trash talking San Francisco just before the scene cuts in, and then you tell them you can't hate San Francisco unless you love it. You live in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. This movie has a lot of negative feelings about the city. Do you love it?
I do, but it's, you know, it's mixed feelings. You know, sometimes I feel like it doesn't love me back. You know what I mean? So it's a complicated relationship, but you know, I've grown up in that city. I'll always love it. It'll always be my home. But you know, because I've grown up there, and you know, I've fought for my city by at least making a piece of art. You know, that's you know, highlighting some of the issues that we're having. I can say something about San Francisco, but I'm not necessarily gonna just let you do that in front of me. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, it's like you can, you know, it's like your brother. Like you can talk smack about your brother, but you're not gonna let someone else do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
this is an audience with a lot of mayors and a lot of people that are in charge of housing policy for their cities and their places. What is it that you want this crowd specifically to take away from this film and from your message in making this film?
I think that it's important to try to preserve the culture and the people and make the cities affordable, especially my city in particular. It's like if artists aren't able to be there, we are the people that move the culture, and we are the people that keep the city unique in that way. So I think it's important to have that, and you know, there's also obviously ways to, you know, make your art political as well. So I think it's very important to be preserving that, and also like, you know, keeping the city diverse. It's like the fact that San Francisco is less than 4% black is kind of absurd, you know. So I think it's important to try to preserve those sort of things and those values, because when you don't preserve those things and the people that make the city what it is, then you got all these people coming in that are, you know, they're mainly for tech or whatever, and they're from like, I don't know, Wisconsin. No disrespect to anyone that's from Wisconsin, but they just bring these like, you know, small town values to a city that's not built on that. You know what I mean? So I think it's important for, you know, gentrifiers to hear us out. You know, so, and I mean that's how it starts. It's like this movie just starts the conversation, really. But you know, I think you need to know about the history, for one, of wherever you're moving into, and you need to know about the people that you're pushing out.
Yeah. I mean, housing policy is something that is talked about at every single CityLab, but I don't think that we have had someone on stage who participated in a project, a film like this, that was so critically acclaimed, where a house was literally one of the main characters in the film. And the house really is. I mean, the way that it changes and the way that your character and the other characters experience the house is just really fascinating and profound throughout the film. Have you had conversations about this movie, about the process, the message of the film, with people who work in housing policy, whether it's San Francisco or Geneva if you're traveling in Switzerland, and heard the reactions to the story?
Actually, no. We've had a few meetings where it's funny because they want us to, me and Joe, to speak at the Salesforce Tower, which we don't necessarily support. so you know what I mean? So it's weird trying to figure that out, but you know, we also want to be definitely talking to those sort of officials, you know, people that are higher up, but we haven't talked to that many people about it. But we, you know, every time we do a Q&A or whatever it is, like we're always like, you know, trying to, you know, remind people that we got to abolish the Ellis Act, which is like a very terrible, you know, it's like that's like an act that's like against rent control and like a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, we're trying, man, but we're just artists.
Do you, in San Francisco itself, have you sensed a change in the last few years? I feel like for a decade, maybe like right after the Great Recession, between, I don't know, 2007, 2017, there was this period of just, you know, rampant gentrification, just housing prices going crazy throughout San Francisco. And maybe at some period in the last maybe 3 to 5 years, I've sensed this idea that the city has hit a breaking point, where there's an understanding that something has to be done about affordable living here, because people who have been here, like you and your family for generations, cannot afford to stay in the city that they call their home. Have you seen that energy? Have you seen the beginning of it? Or do you think San Francisco is still stuck in that decade of fast growth and not enough thinking about making it a city where people who've lived there can call it home?
Man, it doesn't really feel like it's leaning towards the right way, which is why we're, you know, trying to work, you know, because is very violent, you know, and it's just so rapid. It's like I'm only gonna be here a few days. It'll probably be different by the time I get back. You know what I mean? But you know, I mean, all you can do is, you know, show up to, you know, events like this and talk to the right people and just try to get your voice heard in there. But it's like it's hard when they're pushing most of those people out. So it's like they can't even show up to the city to even have these sort of meetings because they're so far out. It's like people commute very far just to come work in the city so they can, you know, make city pay. And, you know, so it's you know, it's just it's a battle, but you know, I'm here to fight that battle for sure.
Yeah. Well, keep fighting the battle. Hopefully this film makes it to the Oscars, picks up a couple nods, maybe for Best Actor, maybe for Director and Cinematography. Who knows, even Best Picture. Jimmie Fails, thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you.